Canada shocked everyone by standing against the United States in a fight over Greenland. As America tried to grow its power, Canada backed Denmark and helped block the plan. This bold move could be a big win for Canada and a major setback for the United States. At the NATO summit in Ankara, Donald Trump renewed his demand that Greenland come under American control, telling allied leaders that the United States requires dominance over the Arctic island for national security reasons, citing increased Russian and Chinese military activity in the region. Greenland's government rejected the demand within hours. Denmark rejected it. And Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who signed an Arctic Security Cooperation Agreement with Denmark at the same summit, responded by articulating a position that directly contradicts every premise of the American approach to the region. The legal and geopolitical status of Greenland is not ambiguous. Greenland is a self-governing, semi-autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. It has its own parliament, the Inatsisartut, its own government, and its own prime minister. The territory has home rule authority over domestic affairs, while Denmark retains responsibility for foreign affairs and defense. Greenland's population of approximately 56,000 people has consistently rejected, in every poll conducted, any proposition of becoming American territory. The island is not a disputed territory. It is not subject to any international legal claim by the United States, and it is not for sale. It is a well-known position of the United States that it wants to own and take over Greenland. I hope that it is equally well known everywhere that this is not going to happen. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen stated at the Ankara summit on Wednesday, July 8th. She added that Denmark is ready to defend every inch of NATO, including our own territory. A statement that converted the Greenland discussion from a diplomatic irritant into an explicit statement of territorial defense by a NATO ally directed at another NATO ally's demands. The strategic logic Trump articulated at Ankara centers on Arctic military competition. His documented argument is that Russian and Chinese naval vessels are operating in Arctic waters around Greenland, that Denmark cannot afford to protect the island from those activities, and that American control would address a national security vulnerability. The factual portion of that argument, that Russian and Chinese vessels are active in Arctic waters, is correct and documented. Russia operates the world's largest icebreaker fleet and has been systematically modernizing Arctic military bases since 2014. China, which declared itself a near-Arctic state in 2018, despite having no Arctic territory, has been conducting scientific and commercial voyages through Arctic waters with increasing frequency. Arctic competition is real, documented, and accelerating. What is also documented is that the American military already has access to Greenland under existing alliance arrangements. Thule Air Base, now designated Pituffik Space Base, is a US military installation in northwestern Greenland that has operated continuously since 1951. It hosts American space surveillance systems, early warning radar for ballistic missile detection, and logistical infrastructure for Arctic operations. The United States has had a documented, active military presence in Greenland for 75 years without owning the territory, a fact that undermines the operational premise of Trump's demand while leaving intact his broader argument about Arctic competition. Carney's approach to the same Arctic security concerns runs through a different framework. In June 2026, Carney said that beefing up Arctic security was key to solving the Greenland crisis, positioning increased Allied investment in northern defense as the Canadian response to the same competitive pressures Trump cites, rather than territorial acquisition. Canada signed an Arctic Security Cooperation Agreement with Denmark at the Ankara summit margins, a bilateral arrangement between two NATO allies, specifically covering the region where Trump is applying pressure on Denmark. That agreement gives Canada a documented bilateral relationship with the country, most directly threatened by Trump's annexation rhetoric, creating an institutional Arctic security partnership that operates entirely through alliance channels, rather than territorial claims. Canada's own Arctic infrastructure investment adds the material dimension to Carney's diplomatic positioning. The March 2026 Yellowknife announcement committed $40 billion in Arctic investment covering military base expansions at Yellowknife, Inuvik, Iqaluit, and Goose Bay. Arctic over-the-horizon radar development, highway and port infrastructure through the slave geological province, and hydroelectric capacity expansion in the Northwest Territories. That $40 billion commitment is the largest single Arctic investment in Canadian history. Canada is building the physical security infrastructure that makes its Arctic sovereignty claims operationally credible rather than merely legally asserted. The $1.75 billion radar deal with Before Anyone Else Systems Australia, signed June 22nd, adds a surveillance architecture specifically designed for the Arctic approaches where Russian and Chinese activity is documented. Trump's threat to pull American troops out of Europe issued at the same press conference, where he demanded Greenland landed against a NATO that had just completed the most significant collective defense spending increase in its modern history. Every NATO ally now exceeds the 2% of GDP benchmark. Trump spent his first term demanding. Canada achieved 2% in 2026 for the first time in decades. European allies collectively increased defense spending by 20% in a single year. The alliance that Trump threatened to abandon with troop withdrawals if it didn't hand him Greenland is the same alliance that, hours later, confirmed it is building a multinational defense, security and resilience bank headquartered in Ottawa, purchasing a globalized surveillance fleet manufactured in Canada, and extending its defense commitment framework to 5% of GDP by 2035. That should be controlled by the United States, not by Denmark, Trump said. And when they wouldn't go along with it, and with all the money we spend to help them with Russia, we don't have to spend any money. We could remove all of our soldiers out of Europe. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte's handling of the Greenland demand at Ankara describes the institutional response the alliance has developed for managing Trump's territorial ambitions without either endorsing or directly confronting them. Rutte acknowledged that Trump absolutely has a point on preventing Chinese and Russian access to the Arctic, validating the competitive security concern, while simultaneously describing a good process in place regarding Denmark and Greenland that does not involve American acquisition. That framing converts a territorial demand into a security discussion, which is the only form in which European allies can engage with it without either accepting it or publicly rupturing with Washington over it. The Greenland demand's reappearance at Ankara months after Trump had described a framework with NATO Secretary General Rutte in January 2026 that many observers interpreted as a de-escalation of the annexation push confirms that no framework negotiated between Rutte and Trump on Greenland has resolved the underlying American position. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing in June 2026 that conversations with Denmark and Greenland were continuing on a monthly basis and were in a good place. Trump's Ankara statements delivered the following month describe a president who considers the acquisition unresolved, who characterizes NATO's refusal on the issue as damaging to his relationship with the alliance, and who explicitly connected European troop presence to Greenland compliance. The January framework, whatever its specific terms, did not produce the outcome that would allow Trump to describe the Greenland question as settled. Canada's Arctic Security Agreement with Denmark, Canada's $40 billion Northern Investment Commitment, and Canada's documented bilateral engagement with Nordic allies through the SAFE initiative all create institutional relationships that reinforce Danish and Greenlandic sovereignty claims through practical cooperation building. The allied Arctic security infrastructure that makes territorial acquisition arguments harder to sustain operationally, even as they continue politically.